How did Christianity play a part in getting a divorce?
Oh my goodness. Divorce was not something that I took lightly.
Right.
It was something that, it was a decision that I made that I struggled with. That was not an easy decision. It was something that I prayed about, I fasted about. I really, really wanted to hear God. Like, I really wanted to hear God, and I really wanted to do, my intention was to do what God wanted me to do. Divorce is such a taboo.
Yeah, it is.
In the church. So that was a very, very hard decision to make.
I made vows, I broke them. Hindsight, I didn't comprehend the gravity of the exchange of this solemn promise, a vow, before God and man. It's time to unpack these sacred words so that I never take this oath lightly, ever again. I'm Laterasar Whitfield, and this is the Marriage Vow series on the Dear Future Wifey podcast.
Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm your host, Laterasar Whitfield. Hey, listen, are you still shacking up with us? If you are, come on, let's make a commitment and hit that subscription button and subscribe. Man, I've been so excited as we've been unpacking these marriage vows. And we can't talk about the vows without talking about the moment that occurs in a lot of marriages where you decide to walk away from those vows. And so today we're going to talk about divorce. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. My homie, Samantha Lee. How you doing, homie?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
So listen, man, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because if I know anything about you, you believe in keeping it lit.
Yes, I do. That's very true.
Have you always been like that?
No, I have not.
So you used to operate where you weren't as transparent?
Absolutely. I used to operate, and the enemy used that. He used the ability or my inability to keep it 100, to be transparent, to be unapologetically bold. He used that to keep me stagnant in a lot of areas. So it's because of that now I'm very intentional about living lit.
Man, let me tell you something. That's absolutely beautiful. You have an amazing program. You do a live on Mondays where you actually do Bible study. You call it Miracle Mondays.
I do.
What made you decide to start doing that?
You know, when I was, it was during COVID, and there was a time where I really felt like, I don't know, I felt like God was just pulling me in a direction of like, I want you to know me. For me, right. Not through anybody else, not through me understanding scripture, through a podcast, because I was heavily reliant upon others' interpretation of scripture.
Right.
And so God had called me at that time to like, you need to be you need to, not for me to do it. I didn't think he wanted me to do it. I thought he wanted me to be involved with one. So I started looking I actually posted it. I said, does anybody have an online Bible study that I could attend? And people wrote me back overwhelmingly, was like, if you do a Bible study, I'm going to attend.
Wow.
So that's how it started. And I was like, okay, who should I do this with? And the first person that came to mind was Pastor Kim, Real Talk Kim.
Real Talk Kim. Shout out to her. She's built such an amazing platform over the years.
She's an amazing woman.
Yeah. So you got her to join you on this.
Listen, I wrote her, and I was fully expecting her to say no.
Yeah. And
she wrote back so quickly and was like, I am so down. Tell me when to go.
Wow.
Tell me when to go. And we started that next Monday.
And then how long did y'all do that?
Her and I did the podcast We did the online Miracle Mondays together from then I think until December, or not even December, might have been like the beginning of the fall of that year. So we probably did it together for 7 months, but I've been doing it since March of 2020. So, March of 2020. So I've been doing it now. I'm going on 2 years.
And then you have I Am Her.
I was her.
Because you say you ain't that no more?
No. I'm saying, see, look, I started a show called I Was Her, something that I've been thinking about for years. In fact, years ago, my IG name was I Was Her.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, fun fact.
Yeah, this is like it's probably like 7 years ago, and I was obviously not. I was not healed. I wasn't anywhere where I need to be. But anyway, I still felt like even then I was a better version of me than I was before. And so I wanted to. I always had it on my heart. It's been on my heart for a long time, and I just did I Was Her. That was the show, and it's about women writing in, people writing in, sharing their experiences, and I normalize those things because I think we live in a culture that really puts on a show.
Yes, we do.
And that doesn't heal people.
Right.
And so I really wanted to start something where I could be honest about where I come from, what I've been through, what I've walked through, and how I walked through it to heal and free somebody else, hopefully.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. Well, like we said, this episode is called Divorce.
Yeah.
It's a touchy subject. Now, one thing that I made you a promise, because I know all too well the travails of going through a divorce, and your divorce isn't final, so you're still going through the process. So I'm making you a promise that I'm going to make sure that you are protected in this episode. I don't want you talking about anything that may be used against you in your divorce proceedings. And just want to pray that God covers you as you go through this journey of litness and just protection. Because I understand how the enemy is. He'll take one little thing you may say and run amok with it. But I want you to feel that you're in a safe space, and we're going to talk and chop it up. And one thing, I'm not going to ask you specifically about your divorce, because that's one thing that I don't even talk about in my, for myself. I don't talk about the specifics that led to my divorce, just for protection of the other party.
Right.
But I do want to talk about your state of mind. I want to talk about what made you decide to get a divorce, and the emotional place that you were in and all that good stuff. So do I have your commitment to keep it lit today?
I will keep it lit. And Lord, control my mouth, Lord, because you already know how I am. I just talk and get to talking, but Lord, control me, Jesus.
You heard of Jesus.
Yes, Lord. Jesus. But yes, I will keep it as transparent as possible.
Well, there's no secret that you were married to a celebrity. Have you ever did you ever think that you would be married to a celebrity?
No. In fact, it's so crazy. When I was going to high school, right, and I was insecure and stuff like that. There was a boy on the bus that I used to sit next to. I had a crush on him, and he said, "You're gonna marry somebody in the industry or somebody famous or whatever." And I said, "No, I'm not." Like, because I'm from at that time I'm from Decatur, Georgia. You know what I'm saying? I've been living Decatur, Georgia. I went to Decatur Middle, Mill Creek High School, and then I graduated from UGA, and I went to UGA twice. I'm a double dog, and go Dogs, by the way. But I that happened. Oh, let me stop moving.
You can move. Just move the microphone with you.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to move, just do this. If you want to move, you want to
slide back. You want to move around?
Yeah. Yeah, just grab the microphone.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not used to that. Okay, anyway.
You grabbed it.
So, anyway, that was said to me. I was like, that's crazy. That's weird. No, that won't happen, whatever. So I moved, later on in my life, this randomly happened to me. Like, I never, ever in a million years thought I would ever marry somebody in the industry. No, never. Never.
So how many years were you married?
We were together for 5 years. We were married for 4.
4 years. Mm-hmm. When you got married, did you ever foresee, because sometimes people get married and they see an end in sight. Mm-hmm. When you got married, did you get married and say, I'm going to be married until death do us part?
Absolutely. I absolutely thought that I would be married forever with this person.
You're a Christian, right?
Yes.
Have you always been a Christian?
No.
As far back, when did you give your life? When you go back to this moment of when you accepted Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, and you knew what you was doing, at what age were you?
21.
You were 21.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did Christianity play a part in getting a divorce?
Oh, my goodness. Divorce was not something that I took lightly.
Right.
It was something that it was a decision that I made that I struggled with. That was not an easy decision. It was something that I prayed about, I fasted about. I really, really wanted to hear God. Like, I really wanted to hear God, and I really wanted to do, my intention was to do what God wanted me to do. Divorce is such a taboo.
Yeah, it is.
In the church. So that was a very, very hard decision to make.
Did you get outside advice, like from a therapist standpoint, like therapy? Did you get any type of accountability, people in the faith, ministers or pastors or first ladies or whatever, that helped walk you through making this decision?
Yes, I have had a therapist the whole time throughout my entire relationship. I've always done my individual work, and I've been doing that for 8 years now. But
8 years.
In addition to doing my individual work, we've seen, marital therapists that were involved. We had friends and, pastoral leadership and all that. Yeah, all of that was involved in the decision making, in me consulting with those people and wanting so badly to do what God wanted me to do, so badly.
Did you feel like a failure once you decided to make a divorce, or to get a divorce? Did you feel like that you were giving up too soon, or did you have peace about your decision?
I struggled. I struggled with my decision. I have a child,
right?
And so it's just one of those things that it was not an easy decision. And even when I made it, I was like, there was times where I would definitely question whether I was doing the right thing or the wrong thing, just because what I've been taught about divorce.
What have you been taught about divorce? You
should never do it. That it shouldn't happen.
And it's crazy. They say you should never do it. Do they ever tell you reasons why you should do it?
No. There were certain circumstances where people were like, when I would say certain things, they'd be like, well, what the qualifiers were, even with cheating, it wasn't
a divorceable
offense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that was my reasoning.
Right,
I just,
right.
From what I understood from the church, it was like, there was a catch for all. It was always that vow that, like, till death do you part. And it really doesn't, the in-between.
One talks about.
Yeah, unless somebody's like, beating you up.
Yeah.
That would be the only recourse to go that route.
And see, and that's what we've been unpacking on the Marriage Vow series, is what does for better or worse look like?
Right.
What is all in that? Because you hear about couples who survived infidelity. You hear couples who survived the other party having a drug addiction. You hear about parties who survive people having a gambling addiction. They lose everything and all this crazy stuff. And so even when I think back on my past marriage, I go, wow, and I talked about this in the episode with David and Tamla. I said I felt like a failure because I said, I know in order for y'all to get to 30 years and all that other stuff, that y'all went through some stuff.
Yes.
But then people can't really understand this or accept this, because I see a lot of comments under my YouTube channel where they say, well, why don't you go back to your ex-wife? Why don't you go back to your ex-wife? Mm-hmm. And I go, and I always tell them, I say, I can't tell you the whole stories, but this is the best option. This is what was supposed to be.
Right.
Well, I just think God doesn't this. And then they'll come and, hit you with some scriptures or whatnot. And I'm going, listen, I'm a grown man. Trust me. As I've been healing and doing all the stuff, certainly I would know if that's the person I'm supposed to be with. And I hear about people who go back to their spouses and do it second times around, but that's not my testimony.
Right.
And so do you feel like you've felt pressure from the church or from the world saying that, Sam, you gave up too soon?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I got a lot of that. And I understood why.
Yeah.
And I have to say that to anybody. I feel like anything is redeemable. I don't think anything is beyond God fixing, God working out, God doing a work. I've seen it happen in so many different marriages. So I would always encourage somebody to fight for their marriage. Absolutely. Fight for it. Fight for it as long as you can.
Right.
But there's one of those things, even in therapy, where they say where you go to a stalemate.
Yes.
We talked about this earlier, where there's like, you're just at a place of how do we move? And I learned about it in therapy when I was becoming a therapist,
right? About
this place where you just kind of, you don't really know there's a both parties, wherever their line is, both parties are not moving. And so it's like we're kind of just here. And somebody has to move for it to work. But if both parties are at a place of like, we're here, then you have to make decisions. And so I think that for me, I think for a while, I'll be honest with you, in the beginning, I was very ambivalent because I was so hurt. There was a lot that had happened. And I was, that's just that. But I think that there was a level of, I struggled with unforgiveness my whole life. So it wasn't just like that situation.
It was
but
compounded with all the past.
Oh man, there's so many, I was taught to hold a grudge. My family, that's how we moved. We moved in anger, in sense of like, okay, if I'm mad with you, I'm mad with you forever.
Yeah.
There is no way that we could go this whole course of our life and never speak because of one situation. And that is what I was taught.
Yeah.
Or that was what was reinforced.
Yeah.
And so I think that I struggled a lot with my heart being cold, and not cold because God wanted to be cold, because God doesn't want your heart to be cold.
Right.
It was just a level of forgiveness that I had to reach. Just with not only that situation, with all different kinds of situations where God showed me like, this is how I want you to forgive.
Yes.
And forgive wholeheartedly. And I realized I had built up such a fence in my life or in this situation that I couldn't even see that person anymore. Like I couldn't even see them because there was so much hurt in things that I collected, that I carried. And once I kind of with God just kind of resolved a lot of things, then I really did come to a place of questioning whether I made the right decision or not. Because I had truly forgiven and forgiven the way that God has called me to forgive, called us all to forgive.
So after you went through that transition, you said that you elevated your level of forgiveness, and it made you absolutely actually question whether or not you were doing the right thing and getting a divorce?
Right. It did. Because I think that I felt again, and I hadn't felt in a long time.
Gosh, that's so good. I want people to receive that right there. That's pretty deep.
That's
pretty deep. Because when you're operating in a place of numbness, then you just moving.
We just moving.
But then the other part about it is that when you find yourself feeling again and you're still willing to make that same decision, then you're making a decision from a healed place.
A healed place.
Yes.
That's good.
And that's what I like. I like the fact that now if you just got mad and you said, forget it, I'm getting a divorce and I'm done, then you need to do some work. But if you say, after I did this, it made me even feel like I should forgive and counsel all this stuff, but then you got along with God and said, you know what, this is still, that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
You got to this place where you said, hey, this is still the best option. Mm-hmm. And do you get support from that decision? Like family members or whatever say, you're doing what's best because, Sam, we know you. The world may not see or may not have witnessed the idiosyncrasies that went on in your marriage, but they see it. And sometimes when you see your loved one now begin to glow differently or smile more now, they go, gosh, that marriage is a huge weight and an anchor on your leg. Have you had that testimony?
Yeah, I feel with my family, absolutely. I've had a super strong support system. So that's been an amazing thing personally for me. I'm one of those people that I develop really close ties to people when I have friendships for long periods of time. And so those people, for better or for worse, whether I decided to go this way or get that way, they were going to rock with me no matter what. And they just trusted that my decision making, that if I was making this decision, I was making it in a healed place, that this was the best decision for me. And they respect that no matter which way that was or which way it goes.
So they would have, that's good. That's good that you said they respect you enough to know that if you stay, they rocking with you. If you leave, they rocking with you.
Right. They were either way, they were gonna have my back. And that made me feel really good because it really did give me the freedom to make the best decision for me versus feeling like the people that I love and are closest to me were vying for one specific way to go about this. And you're feeling like, well, I got this family pressure to do this, or I got this friend pressure to do this, and I don't want to disappoint them. My family and my friends and my support system was very much like, we know that this is a hard decision. We know that you're you're battling a lot of different things. So you have to make the best decision for you. We gonna love you either way.
We had some interesting discussions, and I think that people need context around this.
Uh-huh.
What made you marry this individual to start off with?
I married him because he was the most intentional man I had ever met. I mean, he was very clear. We went on our first date. He was like, "You the one. We are going to get married. We're going to have kids. You going to bounce back. We going to do that." And I was like, man, I never met a man that just came in from a place of like, I've been praying, I've been nesting, I've been preparing for my wife. And, you check off all the boxes. I've been dating for a while. I done seen a lot of things, and you just meet every single criteria here. And I was like, wow, I hadn't ever experienced something like that. And so I remember at the time I had really gotten into my spiritual relationship with God, and I was like, he was trying to be my teammate. He had my back in certain situations. I wanted a teammate. I wanted somebody who had my back. I wanted somebody who was gonna ride with me, and we was gonna get. And that's how that situation was for me. And it was very like, even no matter what has happened, that person was my teammate. Yeah. And we had issues and stuff like that. But no matter what, that's one thing I'll say is that having my back remained. And I kind of, in the beginning, for me, that was something that I really strongly, and even as I move along, even as I, when I want to get married again, I want to have more children and do that. But I want somebody that's my teammate. And I felt that the strongest with him at that time.
It's powerful, because oftentimes we can talk about the negative things about a relationship and be like, oh, this person is trash, this person is this or whatever. But you married that person. Yeah. And you married that person for a reason. Yes. So they had to do something right, or they had you at gunpoint and walked you down the altar and said, marry me. So they did something that captivated your heart. And so even when you and I had discussions about this, I was like, that's powerful. I said, I give that brother a round of applause, because I support any brother that's extremely intentional about what he desires, how he pursues the woman. And when you said, I've never been pursued by any other man greater than this brother, I said, hats off to my brother, because that's what it looks like to court a queen, and you share a lot of amazing things that he did. And I was like, what? I said, well, shoot, I don't blame you. You know what I'm saying? I don't blame you why you didn't marry. Didn't I say that? I said,
I would have married him too.
I would have married him too. God dang it, shoot. I'll be like, God dang, this joker is dope, just as, because I love it when men are intentional.
I love that. You don't understand. We need more of that.
Because a lot of people always say these men live in these gray areas where you don't know what you got, whether you're in a relationship or not. You don't know if you're in a situationship. You don't know if y'all dating. You don't know nothing. They just be like, you know what I'm saying? We just vibing. Right. You know what I'm saying? We just vibing.
We just gonna see where this goes. I mean, if it goes this way, then that's cool. If it go that way, then that's cool too. I mean, I'm just open for whatever. It's like, Lord, like, I be offense, Lord, because I like a man that's intentional. I like a man that knows I have a strong personality. So for someone,
I can't tell, Sam. I can't tell you have a strong personality.
Well, I hide it really well. I try to, clean it up. You know what I'm saying? But I would say that, like, I have a strong personality. So for someone to come in with such a strong, he has a very strong presence, and I respect him. I respected him so much. I was like, okay, you know what? He could lead. I trust his lead. Woo! I could submit myself to his leadership, because I seen the way he's conducted himself. My decision making in that was probably the most non-feeling based decision. It was like, okay, based upon what I've seen at this point, I trust him to be the head of my household. And that really, I mean, I really did. I really trusted his decision making. I trusted where he was where he was and where I was. And, it made me, decide I was going to leave the job I was at. to be, with this man and pursue his dreams with him. And I was going to be his helpmate, and I was going to ride that ride with him. So you have to talk about the beautiful things, because I think during the journey, even during the journey of my healing, I've had to, this young lady in one of my Power Up groups, shout out to Power Up, my online support group.
Yes.
Power Up, man. And those group of ladies, they don't even realize how much they've helped me in my journey of healing and getting to a place of whole. But there was a woman on there, shout out to you, Erica.
Erica.
But there was a woman on there that basically said to me, she showed me her wall, and she showed me the wall of people that she prayed for. And then she showed me a wall of people that she struggled to forgive. And I didn't even realize that I struggled with forgiveness at that time. Like, I really didn't. But we were fasting as a group. And she showed me the wall of forgiveness. And she said, when you struggle with somebody that you're forgiving, underneath who you want to forgive, she put under there, why do you love them? What is it about them that you love? She's like, because to forgive, you have to come from a place of love. If you're forgiving from a place of not loving, you're not really doing it the way that God does it, or the way that he's called you to do it.
Erica, Lord Jesus.
I know. And so she challenged all of us to create a wall of people that, whether it was siblings, parents, whether it was unhealed friendships or whatever that was, to forgive, but forgive from a place of love. Like, I loved you because of X, Y, and Z, and I don't take that back. Of course, as we move along in our journey, maybe that doesn't come together right now, or never does. But I can say still from a place of love that I forgive you, because there are beautiful things about you. And sometimes we can get so lost in the negatives. We can get so lost in the places of hurt and bitterness that we don't even feel love anymore. And God forgives, and shout out to Pastor Mike Todd.
Yeah.
God forgives from a place, he forgives us with the same metric that we forgive others. So if we struggle with unforgiveness in one area, he then mirrors that to us. He talks about that in his word. And I was challenged by that, because I think that there's ways that I've grown from really forgiving and trying to forgive, and keeping that in mind as things come along, that I should forgive in that way. And, it's been an amazing journey, but that's why I feel as though that I can speak from a place of love in that situation.
Have you ever told him that you forgave him?
Yeah.
How do you receive it?
Not well. You might want to edit that one out.
So let me say.
I think I'm still unforgiven. But
you asked, you did your...
It was him and somebody else, and I forget. That same time, around Easter, I was like, I have forgiven, and this is, I'm letting this completely go. There is no ill will. That doesn't necessarily mean we got to be besties. We got to do this. We got to do that. But I have forgiven, and I am open. I'm at an open posture, and I'm really walking and trying to walk in love.
Yeah. Watch it clanging on the table.
I'm sorry.
Clanging on the table.
It's real Hispanic of me. Sorry, it's real Hispanic of me.
Clink.
We got the
be dangling. So you said that. So it was two people. Did the other person receive the forgiveness?
No.
Okay. Well,
they didn't either.
Okay.
But it's okay though. I forgave, and that's all that God sees the heart. Sees the heart.
You had your assignment. You knew your assignment. Right?
And that's you know what?
Yeah.
But I'll say this, and that kind of made me excited. What God has showed me in this is that I'm walking in obedience.
Yeah.
So no matter whether or not that person receives it the way I want them to receive it, whether I decide that they're going to be this or they're going to be that, I have let go of all expectations of a human being's behavior in response to whatever God has called me to do.
There it is.
Because sometimes we do things with expectation that something is going, like I'm going to get something from this.
Yep.
And that's not really walking in obedience. That's walking in expectation and hope and trust in what that person will do versus what God has called you to do.
Yes.
So whether or not that it ever amounted to that, I think that God was teaching me in that situation that you're doing this because I told you to. You may not see it manifest. You don't know why you did it. You don't know why you said that, but I'm going to use that. So even if that person doesn't react to it the way I want them to or receive it the way I want them to, I'm doing it knowing that I'm doing it for God and he's good with me.
Oh, we all could understand that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to understand that. Well, what really resonated with me is the fact that you were talking about what Erica said, that to forgive from a place of love.
Yes. Forgiving from a place of love. So remembering when you're trying to forgive somebody, remember why you love that person. Like, what was it about that person that you loved? And then like thinking, and she said, take a moment to think about those things, think about those times, think about those situations that were beautiful. And then going from a place of like, you know, I loved you for X, Y, and Z, and I got to give you that, and I'm gonna release this, not because I feel like I have to, because God told me to, but I'm going to forgive you because I do love you. Because God is love.
Let me tell you something. That made the scripture illuminate to me that for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Mm-hmm. That scripture from a place of forgiveness, because he said he so loved the world. We were operating in sin. So in order for us to come into redemption of our sins, which means he has to forgive us once we get under redemption, is that he gave. But he gave out of love in order to get to a place of forgiveness and redemption. And so I've never even heard that scripture come alive to me in that fashion to even say, because we say, well, God so loved the world. He loved me so much that he died for us. But he loved you so much that he had to put his son in front of our sin in order to bring us in restoration to him. And it's like, you know what? That's powerful, because I've never thought about, I love you, so I'm gonna forgive you. Right. And well, when I think of that, that's because I love you and I forgive you and we're gonna stay together. But I love you, I'm gonna forgive you and we're gonna stay together. Not I love you, I forgive you, bye.
That's right. That's a thing. It's amazing that you say that, because a lot of people cannot separate that
at all.
It's like, I love you, I forgive you, but that doesn't necessarily mean we need to be together.
Yes.
You can walk your journey, I can walk my journey, and we're still walking in love, but we may not be walking in love together. Yeah. You know, and that's okay. But you holding anything in your heart against somebody else is going against what God has called us, how God has called us to walk. I have a tattoo on me, and it says, it's 1 John 4:19. It says, I love because he first loved me. And that resonates with me. I could cry right now, because the only reason why I love and love on a pure level is because he chose to still love me.
In spite of everything.
In spite of everything that I do, have done, and continue to do.
So why'd you get that tattoo? What happened? What moment resonated with you where you said, you know what, God, I want to stamp this on my body part?
You know, it was so funny, because I did not get it in a place of really being a smart, intelligent person. That was actually it wasn't a bad decision. I actually don't regret it at all. It's a beautiful tattoo. But it's like, it was one of those things that really, God was taking the wheel, even in my own stuff, because I got the tattoo just to get the tattoo, and I looked up a verse that I kind of liked, and I was like, well, I really want a tattoo, an Arabic symbol of love and peace. That's what I really wanted, and I was like, well, what verse matches that? Oh, I love because he first loved me. I'm gonna put that on my back, not even realizing that years later how much that will resonate with me. Didn't even know it.
So you put that on there before you were walking this strong?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
A scripture.
Yes. I most of my stuff has been, well, yeah, most of the stuff I tatted on me is a scripture. But you know, there's one big one on my back that I really regret, because that one was it's cool looking, but it's not. I thought it would say something in Asian, in Chinese that it doesn't say, and so I actually. I Googled the symbol and it did not mean that. But it's okay, Lord. So I put Deuteronomy, I think it's 31:6. Fear not, for God will never leave me nor forsake me. I put that on my back. I was 18 years old, or 19 years old. I was 18 or 19 years old. I was not walking with the Lord strongly at that time. God was still working on Sam, but I still tattooed that on me. And so, yeah.
And you said the Arabic symbol. What does it mean?
Love and peace. It's the Arabic symbol of love and peace. It actually means that.
Okay, I thought you said it didn't mean what you thought it
No,
meant.
the Asian one.
The Asian one means what?
The Asian symbol that I had that was supposed to be the Chinese symbol for courage. That's what I thought it meant. That's what I thought that's what the symbol was supposed to be. It doesn't mean that. I've talked with multiple different Asian people from different Asian descents, and they've confirmed that it doesn't mean anything in any of those languages. And so I've just had to reconcile that within myself. God knew my heart, but
It don't mean anything.
it don't mean anything in any Asian descent of
Like
any Asian background.
It's just a decoration.
It is at this point, it just looks cool. You know, it just looks good.
Oh God!
But
You said you confirmed with a whole bunch of different.
I've asked multiple people.
They said it means nothing.
I've tried to cite my sources, and there was no source. And that is why it's important to cite your sources. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you fact check. Don't just believe what somebody tells you when they tell you it.
And then get it tattooed.
And get it tattooed on you permanently.
Forever.
It is the biggest tattoo I have on my body. And so, nonetheless, has nothing to do with anything. Yeah.
It's the biggest one.
It is the biggest one I have on my body. That is a fact.
It means nothing.
It means nothing.
You like getting tattoos?
I do.
Were you a type that would get like your lover tattooed on you?
I did. It wasn't my lover, it was my husband, though.
Yeah, so you got his name tattooed on you?
You look at me concerned. I did have his initials on me. Yes.
Okay, just initials.
Just initials, yes.
I always wonder about that. Now, when it's a spouse, I understand. I guess I would never tattoo nobody's name on me. I feel like I can remember it. But but when people get stuff tattooed, and like especially when you see people dating each other and they get their name tattooed,
absolutely not.
I was like, why did you do that?
That was not. And the thing is, I don't regret it. It wasn't a bad decision.
Well, that's your husband, so you feel like
absolutely.
Yeah,
that's to show you that I absolutely was
riding with you
till death do us part. Absolutely,
yeah, that's permanent.
All intentions of doing that, absolutely.
And then what you do with that tattoo?
I covered it up with the olive branch and my daughter's initial.
What does the olive branch stand for?
I think the olive branch means like peace, and doesn't it mean like peace and was it right? No, it was like restoration. I thought it meant something about restoration.
When Jesus was walking, they threw the olive branch. Dang, I just drew a blank of what that actually stands for.
I can Google it, but I'm not gonna do it. But there's definitely a meaning.
Yeah, there's meaning between the olive branch for sure. So,
and then my daughter's.
The daughter's initial. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So when you thought about your daughter, and we touched on this, where you see a lot of couples going through divorce and they have kids. Mm-hmm. Kids can, and you hear this so many times. That sometimes people, I have friends who stayed in a marriage longer than what the kids would, desire for them to stay. Mm. But most parents stay in the marriage for the protection of the kid, or so the kid doesn't grow up without the other parent. But then you hear kids, they say, gosh, I wish you would have left them a whole lot sooner. Mm. But so when you think about what factor did your kid play into deciding to get a divorce? Negative or positive? Were you like, man, I'm gonna stay or whatever because we have this kid together or whatnot?
It absolutely was a huge factor for me in making my decision. It really was. It was a huge factor for me. And I think anybody that's, in a situation like that, you have to really consider. And Soraya has such a great relationship with her father. Like, that was something that really, I never wanted anything that I would do to get in the way of that.
Yes.
Because my father's, I say that even now, like on my platform, like if you have, there's men in your life that you have children with, like don't get in the way of their ability to be a parent. If they desire to be a parent and they're healthy and they're causing harm to your child, then by all means, don't get in the way of that relationship because of your own brokenness, because of your own bitterness or unforgiveness. Don't put that on your child because that they suffer. And I definitely, at all points, my dad and my stepdad have been, so instrumental into who I've become and who I've grown into as a woman. I would never, I definitely took her into consideration.
And how has she been progressing through this? Feel like she's good.
I think she's doing pretty well. She's a three-nager now, so she's
a three-nager.
They call it a three-nager. She's hit the 3 clubs, and so she throwing her little tantrums, and we having little moments, but nothing unusual.
So how does you're a therapist?
Yes, I am.
So how does that play a factor? Like, what did you do? And maybe people could take some advice. Like, what did you do as far as talk to your 3-year-old when they were 2 about, hey, daddy is not going to be living with us anymore?
Well, I didn't have that conversation with her, at her age. She wouldn't cognitively understand what I'm saying anyway. So, it was more or less of a situation where, we made decisions, and I made it very, very clear that there will be a father. I will not take her away from her father.
Right.
That was not my desire, and so I've been an active participant in really trying to create a healthy co-parenting relationship so that she doesn't miss a beat on either side. Now he works, he works and he travels, but so that kind of gets in the way at times. But otherwise than that, and that's not a negative. It's just
it's just life.
Yeah, but otherwise than that, I just really try to make an effort to make sure that she has that connection with him.
So what advice would you tell people? You would say, hey, listen, what with kids, maybe if it's a kid that can't understand, like 5 years old, what would you say that they should tell their kid at 5 years old?
5 is a young age and is a tender age, but is an age that when you talk about memories when you're in your 20s and stuff, you remember 5. You don't really remember under 5 most times, unless it's trauma. Yeah. And so, or not in all circumstances, but a lot of times it's trauma related if it's under 5. So when it comes to 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, it's a completely delicate situation because they are old enough to know that my parents have been together. This is what I've seen. And so it is important, I think, for both parents to sit down, and I think even involving a child therapist, somebody that can help with transitions or that transition, or seeing that child for, maybe, 12 to 18 sessions, and just making sure that, that it's being handled appropriately. Because you really, really do want to be cognizant of how they're processing and how they're dealing with it. Because it may not show or manifest in a way that they're telling you, like a teenager can tell you. Someone over 10, I say the double digits, they're able to tell you hey, I'm having an issue with this, or I don't like that. Even 9, 8, 7, they can tell you, they can have a conversation with you. But when you're having a younger child that can understand but can't, you really want to involve a professional in that. And just being able, if you can, and being super supportive and making sure that, I think no matter who you are, making sure that both parents are still active and involved.
What does the future look like for you as far as your love life? Do you see yourself ever remarrying?
Yeah, I definitely see myself. I'm somebody's wife.
I am somebody's wife. Y'all heard her?
Period.
She said,
I am somebody's wife. Okay, period. I am somebody's wife, and I know that I'm trusting in whatever. I know that God has His best for me, and so I trust that. I trust that with all my heart, and so I want more children. I want to be married. I want to have, work and fight for my family. I want those things. I liked the idea of being married. I really did, and I think that there's a lot of growing that I've done on the other side of it that I'm continuing to grow and mature and become. But I'm really excited for my future and what I know God has for me.
We talk about, you hear a lot of people after going through a divorce, some people get married shortly after. Do you feel like that's something that will happen to you if you found that, if God purposed this person in your life, or do you think that your experience would dictate the end result and say, nah, we're gonna have to date each other through some seasons. We got to go through our winter, summer, spring, and fall. At least give us about a year or 2 years or whatever. Would you start trying to control the journey of love?
I think that, I've definitely said publicly multiple times that I would have to see somebody through 8 seasons. I've said that. I said 8. I did.
2 years.
2 years. I have to see you. I've said that, okay? But when you put the God thing in there, all right?
Because you're a woman of faith.
I am a woman of faith.
So I got to put that on you.
I am a woman of faith. So I would say that if it was a situation where like, okay, God is like, this is where I'm supposed to be, I'm not going to go against God for my timeline. Right. I'm not going to do that. I'm not so married to my timeline that I'm not going to abide by his.
I'm not so married to my timeline that I won't abide by his. That's a tweetable moment right there.
Well, thank you.
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. You need to make a meme out of that. Because we do that. Like, we be like, nope. Especially after you have come through a marriage, then we think that we become the professor of what the hierarchy and the timelines and how marriage should be and all that, and not come from a space of vulnerability and say, God, yes, this marriage, I experienced some breaking in this marriage, but it didn't break me.
Right.
And breaking is great because breaking opens up your heart to receive more of God or more of the enemy. But clearly through your breaking point, you allow God to come fill it up with more of him. Because I see it when you do all your IG stuff. It's just nothing but God in this thing. And I was like, look at old Sam over here worshiping the Lord all on IG. The first video I ever, unapologetically. Do you realize how you and I met?
Yes, I know how we met.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you the story?
Yeah, tell a story. Because I only got one other side of it. I got the side, and go ahead.
So, okay. So, I, again, plug Power Up.
Yeah.
So, I was on, my app or whatever, Power Up, and we share different things. And so, one of the ladies actually put in, I don't know if I told you this, put in a video and said, y'all need to watch this. And it was a video, the interview with you and Jessica Reedy.
Oh.
She said for everybody to watch this on my thing. Same young lady, Erica, actually. Shout out to you.
Oh, Erica.
I watched it. That day, we put a lot of things in our chat, but that was one thing that I watched and I was like, wow. I first off, I thought the world of you. I thought the world of her. I love what she shared, her transparency. I thought the questions that you asked her really brought a lot out that I received for me, the journey to her, fully loving herself, all aspects of herself, how she talks about, I love my shoulder, rubbing her shoulder, putting lotion on herself. Like, I was like, wow, I watched that interview 3 times. And then after that, I watched the Christian Keys interview, and then I watched from there. I just let it keep playing.
Yeah.
And I was just, for me, I became a fan. So I started following you. I subscribed. I didn't, I wasn't shacking up. I subscribed.
Good. Thank you. Amen.
And so
the Lord use you.
So I did that, and I just, from there, I was like, man, I would love to do something like this.
And you spoke that.
I did on a live. I did. I was one night, I'm just talking, and I'm like, I really y'all have y'all watched Dear Future Wifey podcast? Y'all need to watch Dear Future Wifey podcast because I want to be on there. I want to be a guest on the show. And somebody was like, I guess somebody was connected with you.
Somebody was watching your live. My friend Patrice, shout out to Patrice. Patrice
you a real
Clark.
One, Patrice?
Yeah, Patrice Clark, shout out to you. She's been supporting this thing since day one. I met her from my podcast because she was watching it, and she'll leave some very thought-provoking comments on YouTube. And so she texted me. She said, Lateris, she said, Sam wants to be on your podcast. I said, Sam who? She said Samantha Lee. And I was like, huh? And she said, I sent you the link, look at it. And I clicked on there, and I was like, and that was the week that the Essence interview was going viral, that we took a clip from that, and that went viral. And then I clicked on that, and I was like, oh, I seen a video with her. And the video that I saw of you was something that your ex did that was so beautiful, because out of everything that someone could provide for you, he provided Jonathan McReynolds singing to you. And I was like, this woman, out of everybody, this man has resources to bring anybody to come sing to his wife. And he brought Jonathan McReynolds because
Yes.
you love Jonathan McReynolds.
Love him.
And I said, this woman has a heart for God. I said, this is deep. So that spoke volumes to me, and I saw that video, and I love Jonathan. So I was just worshiping along with him, and I was like, Jonathan's one of the dopest lyricists and vocalists. He's freaking amazing. And so I watched that, and I was like, wow. So then when she sent me the link, I looked, and I was like, wow, I recognize her. So I commented and I said, this is Lateris, the host of Dear Future Wifey podcast. I would love to have you be on the podcast. He was like, is this really him? Am I being catfished?
Hello.
And I said, add me to the live. And you added me to the live.
I did.
And he was like, oh my God. And I was just like, wow, this is so powerful. Now, the reason why that resonated with me so much is because I never know who's watching the podcast.
Oh.
People don't understand, and I talk about this on the live before early on, is that my insecurities could have prevented me from ever doing this podcast.
Right.
Because I said, I don't want to be viewed as some relationship guru where I'm telling people how to get married, how to find this or whatever, which is nothing that I do on my podcast. I said, God, all I really want to do is just be transparent. I just want to have thought-provoking conversations with people like I do with my own friends. Shout out to Rihanna over there. We just sit down. We talk about all things relationship. And I said, that's all I want to do. And I said, I don't think people would tune into that or whatever. He said, Lateris, be you. Just do that, and I guarantee you it'll work. I said, well, maybe I need to come up with a quote. Each episode, I want to be able to drop this quote because I love the TV show Criminal Minds, and it always starts off with this great quote. And I said, I want to start off with a quote so I can be all deep. And then the episode opens up. He said, no, just have the conversation. I'm like, but I need to just sit down and talk to people. And I was like, will that work? He said, I'm God, it will work. And I did that, and to see it take off like it has and for it to resonate with people, I get so many testimonies of people's marriages being healed from it, people loving themselves again. I get inbox messages where people said, you made me believe in love again. And when he gave me the ending, that each episode's end with me saying, and don't stop loving. And I didn't recognize, or I didn't even realize when I was casually saying that I was speaking life into people who had given up on love. And so for you to say that, you provided great reference and let me know that God was exposing what I was doing to people of greatness. I look at you as being somebody of greatness because of how you represent God and how you're unapologetic with it. And so I sat there and I got off that live with you, and I was in the car. I'm trying not to get choked up, but I sat in the car, I said, now, mind you, I just had a video go viral that same week, and then I was summoned on this live by my friend, and I'm sitting there, and I was like, God, there's nothing too impossible for you. Like, God, that you can open up doors that no man can shut. You can shut doors that no man can open. And I ended up creating a T-shirt a couple of weeks ago that says, God is my publicist. Because I said, no matter what, that God can go out and do whatever in the midst of a pandemic. Man. You know what I'm saying? And so I just said, wow. And so I just want to encourage you that as you continue to discover, uncover, and recover love for yourself, that God gives you clear vision. He gives you the spirit of clarity so that you're able to see the heart of a man, not by actions, not by what he says, but you're able to dig deep inside of him and see his heart and let the God in you connect with the God in him. And that's what's going to produce a godly relationship. And that God doesn't send, where the devil doesn't allow, he's going to always send counterfeits. We know that. But God gives you a spirit of discernment to be able to recognize that early on so you don't have your heart ensnared by the trap of the enemy. That's what I speak over you. I'm glad that you're still hopeful. I'm glad that you're still resolute in your ideology about love. You want to be married again. You want to have some beautiful babies. That's absolutely amazing. What is the one thing that you want to see happen in your marriage? When you get married, what is something that you want? She said, hold on. We said, in my marriage, I'm in my current marriage.
I'm leaving, or the one I'm gone from, or the one okay, gotcha.
Oh, I'm going to ask you that. The one you leaving, what would you like to see God do?
A beautiful resolve.
A beautiful resolve.
Yep.
That's amazing.
That's what I want. I pray over it every day.
What does that look like?
I just say, God, I don't know what exactly this is going to look like, I don't know. I stopped praying for what I want or what I desire or what I want, what you want for me. But God, I just praise you for the beautiful resolve.
You know, when I was going through my divorce, I told God to teach me how to divorce my wife with grace. I said, God, teach me how to divorce my wife with grace. And I said, and the way that I know that it worked out is if out there all the smoke clears and the dust settles, that we can still communicate and be cordial and be friends. And God has done that. The studio that we sit in right now, my ex-wife represented me. This was 3 years later after our divorce as the realtor who facilitated the transaction for me to have the studio.
That's amazing.
And I said, God, you did it. I said, God, you actually did it. Because I said, I want to make sure I covered her. I said, I didn't cover her properly in the marriage, but I said, I can cover her on the exit. And that sounds like contradictory statement, but I watched God do it. Where she clearly understood why I was getting a divorce. She clearly accepted it. And it's peaceful. It's absolutely peaceful.
That's amazing.
What do you see for your future hubby?
I just want to see somebody that, first off, somebody that I feel like we're just teammates, we friends, we're lovers, we walk this thing together. I just want somebody that I feel like genuinely likes me and loves me.
That's a key.
And I feel the same way about them. And that I would love a relationship that is centered on God and godly principles, and we could worship. I thought it was so dope. I went to actually Jonathan McReynolds concert. I went to a concert in Atlanta like a week or two ago. And when I went, there was 2 men that were sitting in front of me. Well, 4 actually. It was 2 on one side, 2 on the other side. And they were worshiping God. It was just 2 men. They came together, right? And I'm watching them worship. And I said to myself, like, man, wouldn't that be something where I could worship like that? Like just wildly worshiping and praying and speaking in tongues and doing, like, just getting caught up in God like that. Like we're both standing up dancing like we had some other type of concert, but we're dancing for God. It was like a revival. I was like, man, God, that would be something. I would really be a world changer. You know what I'm saying? I believe I'm a world changer, but it'd be great to have somebody that also wants to be a world changer too.
Whew. All right. Well, Sam, how can people be in touch with you?
Well, y'all can follow me at Love Samantha Lee, LOVE Samantha SAMANTHA Lee LEE at Love Samantha Lee. I've got Miracle Mondays that I do on 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then I also have I Was Her that I do on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then I have a group called Power Up. If you guys want to be a part of that, it's a virtual group of women that we aggressively support each other, and basically with no judgment. I want women to come on there and just, I think right now we've been really isolated, and so there's a lot of women that just need that connectivity and just need that space to be honest and transparent, and hopefully that leads to healing. And so I have Power Up, and then I also have, which you have to join through my Patreon, which that's a whole nother dialogue, and then I have a fitness company, which is Be Your Body Goals. Be Your BG.
Be Your Body Goals.
Be Your Body Goals.
I love it. I saw this dope commercial that y'all did on that. The guy did a great job in the promo of that.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Derek Blank, shout out to him.
Yeah. That's who shouted. Okay.
Yeah, Derek Blanks. But yeah, my trainer and we started a program together called Be Your BG. It's based upon my actual journey into getting to the best shape of my life. And so people can come on, and basically you follow the program I followed.
So people look at you and they may think you always been this fine, but you said you ain't been.
No, actually I haven't.
I
feel like I'm the baddest I've ever been, Lord.
And so you went from
baddest I've ever been.
You went from what weight to what? Let the people know.
I went from, so when I started with her in, I think it was July of 2020 or beginning of August, I was probably 150. I was like 160, I would say 160. And I'm down to 128. So, but I went from being like 27% body fat percentage, which meant a lot to me. I was trying to get my body fat percentage down to 15, 16% body fat, which for a woman, that's You're getting into essential fat, which I don't want to get that muscular, but I'm like right on the line of
perfect balance
athlete. So I'm considered body fat percentage wise, I'm an athlete. So I love it. I try to maintain it. I love to eat though. It's very hard, but nonetheless, we teach you guys that it's progress, not perfection. And we have earned meals. LJ and I cheat. We eat. We like to eat. And we don't want to shame nobody or make them feel like they can't live. Wow.
Oh, LJ is the other girl that's in the video that I've seen.
LJ is my trainer.
She cut up.
LJ is my trainer.
Yeah.
She's American Ninja.
I was like, that girl cut up. I said, she ripped.
She was in the military. She did. She was on a season of American Ninja Warrior, and she's a monster. Yeah. LJ is a monster, but that's my girl, man. That's my dog, and we have that program together.
Love it, man. I love it when women take their talents and turn it into their industry. And so, hey, y'all, man, make sure y'all support my buddy Samantha Lee. She got a lot of programs. Watch her live. You'll be blessed. Just an amazing thing. So continue doing what you're doing, Queen. And I love it when you're talking about guys be up there talking about grand rising queen.
But I have to say this. I'll be remiss if I don't. I just love something that I identified with you from the very beginning is that I really love how you've turned pain into purpose. And it was something about my season that there was people that came to my show, maybe curious about who I was or what was going on, and they found God. And I've literally heard that they found God, that they found hope, that they found a different kind of walk, a different kind of talk when it came to seeing a woman have a relationship with God. And I think that when you came on and I heard your story and I understood your background because you start with it, and I was like, man, this is amazing that whoever you decide to be with is going to be so tremendously blessed that there's a man that's unapologetic about his journey and healing and becoming a man of honor, a man who is working very, very hard to become a man that he could be proud of on the other side of saying I do again. And I really, really appreciate that.
Well, you're not going to make me cry. We're going to close out. Y'all be blessed. Guys, see y'all because you're about to make me emotional. All right, bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all. Deuce was pimping.
Yeah, I can't.
Discover, uncover, recover love with the new Dear Future collection. The journey starts from within. Let your inner thoughts find freedom on the pages of this richly hued Dear Future Blue Sapphire Edition genuine leather journal. It features a cross-stitched spine and luxurious cording to bind your deepest insights. A great accompaniment is the Dear Future Luxury Bamboo Fountain Pen. There's nothing more intentional than the writing process of a fountain pen. This is an elegant writing work of art. Join the thriving community of fountain pen enthusiasts and purchase one today. These exclusive items and more are available at dearfuturewifey.com.
Man, that was quite interesting. I mean, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to go ahead and read my little old letter right here. Glory be to God. Here we go. Dear Future Wifey, let your words of affirmations serve as covering, encouragement, and motivation to undergird my exploits and accomplishments. Speak to me. You know exactly what to say and when to say it. Your words will speak life into me. Through your utterance, rivers of living water will flow from your tongue, become rooted in my soul, and spring forth destiny. Please note, I will not get married a third time. My second marriage will be until death do us part. Divorce is off the table. I've done the work to become a solid man to honor you in ways you haven't imagined. I will serve you. It is my duty to cultivate you into your God-given purpose. You've been so strong thus far. Now relax. I'll take it from here. Your future hubby. Thank you for listening to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently.
and don't stop loving.
Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.